everyone, and welcome to this talk on co-producing short films in Europe. I want to wish you all welcome here on site in Torino and also online. Hopefully we have a big audience there as well. I would like to introduce myself first, maybe, before I give the word. My name is Sigrid Hadenius. I work at Uppsala Short Film Festival, or Uppsala Kortfilmfestival, and I've been invited here to moderate this talk. But here with me, I have our three panelists. First, it is Fabian Driehorst from the animation studio Fabian&Fred, and Maria Drandaki from the production company Homemade Films, and Beatrix Dalsass from the provincial institution Adige Südtirol. So big welcome to you guys. I want to mention to the audience, please feel free to ask questions, both here and online. We very much invite you to take part of this discussion and ask whatever questions you want. And hopefully you will get some good answers. So first of all, I would like to ask you guys to present yourself and present your companies, and we can start with Fabian and then Maria to mention a bit about how your companies work, where you're based, how many short films do you take on per year, produce per year, and how do you already work with the co-productions? It's a lot of questions, but so one of you can start.
You'd like to start?
Yeah, I can start. So thank you. It's very nice to be here, and I want to thank Enrico for inviting me. I come from Greece. I'm based in Athens, and my company is called Homemade Films. It was established in 2009, and I produce mainly fiction feature films, but since I'm very director-driven and I really like to discover new talents, I also produce shorts, and lately I've also started producing documentaries. And I like to say that my editorial line is that the films that I produce, they have a challenge in content or in form or in the way they are produced. And I'm quite happy that so far all of them have found their place in the film festivals worldwide, in distribution, TV channels and platforms around the world. Maybe you want to also say something and then I jump in so that it doesn't take forever.
Okay. So, my name is Fabian Driehorst. Thank you very much also for having me. I'm really happy to be part of this panel. I'm a co-founder of Fabian&Fred, an animation studio and production company based in Hamburg in Germany. My partner Fred is a director, writer, animator, and I work as the producer in the company. So from the start we were kind of mixing creation and production. We started with producing documentaries and animation, and now we focus on animation only, and all kinds of animation is also hybrid films, animated documentaries, experimental animation, animation in 2D and 3D and puppet. And very early on, I think we founded the company 2012. The first animation premiere 2015, and 2016 we did our first co-production with France and Spain, and since then I think we co-produced with, I counted that in the morning, I think it was like 12 or 13 different countries already. We produce around 2 to 3 short films usually per year. Here and there also a feature film. Animation feature takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, so we just start preparing our first animated features. Yeah, and also we are also very lucky that most of the films have a very successful festival and distribution career. Also monetary in a way, which is special, I think, for short films, but it's great. And yeah, lucky that they can travel to A festivals, to documentary film festivals, and depending like on the genre, LGBT festivals, genre festivals. Yeah. So I stop now.
So in terms of co-productions, I mostly work with co-productions. I counted today that Homemade Films has produced 12 feature films and short films so far as co-production. And there are another 7 in financing or development as co-productions. And I think 90% of the films, of the feature films, are co-productions, and I would say 50 to 60% of the short films are co-productions. But this lately has a tendency to raise, I think, and this is a lot has to do also with these events and markets and places where you meet other people and you can actually find partners.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask that a bit later on, but we can just mention it just now. For you to find co-producers, you mentioned markets, and is it mostly European co-productions, or is it also international, like worldwide co-production?
Well, it's mostly European. It used to be mostly European. I've co-produced with the majority, I would say, of European countries. But lately, I'm expanding into Asia, and which has been very, very eye-opening, and also Canada and the States. Which is quite different because in Europe there is, let's say, some common language when it comes to co-productions, even if the different countries have very different financing systems. But there are some very specific and standard principles according to which you can work together. But when you go out of this, it's a whole new world.
And is it similar for you, Fabian? Is it mostly European, or are you also working a bit more with worldwide co-productions?
Yeah, it really depends on the project. I don't know the percentages of how many films are national only, but we co-produced with South Korea, with Palestine, Jordan, Qatar, Lebanon, so the Arab countries. And this is due to the fact that there was a program in Germany which was encouraging this kind of cultural exchange. And unfortunately it stopped, but it opened the door. And I think that is, besides the fact that we want to make interesting films, is why I like these co-productions, also this cultural exchange. And for me, the work with filmmakers from the Arab world really was life-changing in that sense, that it really opened a new world for me.
Yeah, it's quite visual in the past couple of years, what you, from a festival perspective, also to see the amount of co-productions coming from maybe a bit more low-capacity countries, also outside of Europe. So it's you can tell that it has happened a lot now in the past couple of years. That's super interesting. We will get more into that, of course. I wanted also now to give over the word to Beatrix, who's been sitting quietly for now. You're coming from a bit on the other side of this of our industry, from EDM Südtirol. I know you have a presentation with you also. I thought you can present your company and talk a bit more about it.
Yes, thank you. Also from my side, I would like to start the presentation if it's possible. Thank you. Okay. Yes, thank you for having me. I'm here today on behalf of IDM Film Fund and Commission, and we are a regional, selective and economic fund in South Tyrol based on a European regional funding model. And we have a long history in co-productions, and because we are a bilingual border region, and so let's say our main focus is having co-productions with Germany, Switzerland and Austria, but also all over Europe. And so we also want to continue to have this focus with our just new introduced funding type of short film funding. And so I'm going to introduce this shortly. So it's for production funding for short films and short form series. And in this case, IDM Film Funding Commission covers 70% of the total production costs. And so we can grant up to 30,000 euro per project. And we have, you can have a maximum length of 52 minutes, both for the short film and also the short form series. And and then we have two main, let's say, criteria, which is one is the regional spend, so the so-called local spend of about 60%. So that means that you have to spend 60% of the IDM grant on our territory. And another important factor is the involvement of South Tyrolean service providers and filmmakers, especially in the core creative team. So, in the department of production, direction, and the acting and script and production design, editing, and music. And so this grant can be is divided into two different installments. So we have one in the first installment, which is going to be dispersed once you have closed the financing and the principal shooting is about to start, and that is like, let's say, the main installment of 70%, and the second one is when you conclude the final audition, and then you get dispersed to 30%. And so you might come up with the question, especially when it comes to co-productions, and if you're a foreign producer, and where you can find these talents. So we have built up an online database where you can, it's called Directory and Film Jobs, where you can find film talents in South Tyrol, and it's very easy to handle because you can put in keywords like production houses or post-production house, or also just different departments, and then you will find a fact sheet for each person or service provider. And the same database we built up also for locations, and this is also very nice and easy to handle, because here you can just find the perfect location to shoot your movie. And so we really welcome and invite people to look through this database. So we have 3 calls per year where we collect all the funding applications, both for feature film, short film, and also development funding. And so we have one in the beginning of the year, end of January, one at the start of May, and the last one in September. And here you can also see by when you will be able to have an outcome. And so yes, these are the deadlines for 2022. And you will find further information when you look up our website, and the application can be done online. Yes, and I also just briefly want to say that we just introduced this new funding scheme of short film funding because we elaborated our new funding guidelines, and they were approved this year. And within this, let's say, restructuring, we also introduced two main things, which one is regarding the gender equality, and the second one, the green shooting. So gender equality, so we really want to state gender like an equal ratio between men and women beneath the filmmakers, and especially in leading positions. And regarding with the green shooting, it's a very important step towards ecological and sustainable film producing, and by introducing this green shooting certificate, and where producers commit to fulfill these green parameters. And so there are measures which are divided into 7 categories, like waste management, material, mobility, energy, and accommodation, material, and innovative ideas. And so, yes, this is all but the last slide. Yeah, I'm already done, thank you. And I'm really happy if any other questions are coming up throughout this discussion.
Yes, please, if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. There are microphones around, so definitely don't be shy. This looks like such an amazing scheme, I have to say, because it's also open for, it's not just an Italian or regional funding, like it's open for international filmmakers also to apply, right?
Yes, yes, this is also a particular, let's say, feature of our funding model, because eventually production houses from all over can apply to our fund, and so this is also welcoming a lot co-productions, but not only. So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I actually wanted to ask what your experience have been, because this to provide these regional filmmakers also that you do with this database. Is this U.S. producers coming in? Like, is this a normal way of working, or is this luxury for Fabian and Maria? What do you?
To be able to have the access to this database. I think it's, I don't know if it's a luxury, but it's a very good tool. Of course, you know, human contact is the most important, I have to say. But to have already organized lists of, and you can see locations and people and maybe their CVs or, you know, what they've done is very important, yes.
No, and also in terms of regional funding, or like regional spending, sorry, how is it normally when you have worked with co-productions from other countries or other institutions? Is it like a similar with the 60% regional spending it was, right? Is it a similar ratio with other countries that you have worked with, or other
I mean, in Germany it's much different. We have a minimum spending of 150. So you have to bring more money somehow from other sources to be able cover that, and you cannot bring the money outside of Germany in that sense. So yeah, there's strict limitations, and in Germany you need to apply with a producer from the region, or at least from Germany. So yeah, so this is really an interesting initiative. I mean, for animation, there is maybe other infrastructure needed. So, but in terms of post-production, sound, music, if there are studios, then this could be an option too.
No, I think it's quite flexible, and it's something that's very much needed, especially when we are talking about short films. I think maybe only France would have this flexibility in spending obligations. So, good.
And Beatrix, how many, because it's a new scheme, how many projects do you aim to be able to finance over the year? Because you have 3 calls, you said.
Yes, so well, we established this funding scheme even though let's say our funding amount didn't grow, so we have to work with the same amount we already had for feature film, and so we set more or less 200,000 euro per year for short film, and so and also we set this maximum amount per project of 30,000 euro, but also obviously not always granting the maximum amount, so you can maybe fund a bit more works throughout the year. So this is like the starting period, and so we are very keen on seeing what is going to come, and just to answer also, or to add something, and also for feature films we also have a higher local spend. We have 150%, but for short film we have 60%. But also there is this other involvement asked of the core creative team, so which is also quite let's say binding, and also to grow local talents, which is also a very important goal of this funding scheme.
Is it open to all types of projects, or is it strictly fiction, or?
No, open to all types. Yeah.
Cool. That's really nice. I wanted to go over to you, Maria and Fabian. Like, if you want to mention a bit, like, when you work with co-productions, is it only strictly financial? For example, like, what does it mean to be a co-production? Is it enough to have I don't know, an Italian editor, for example, and does it mean is it a co-production then? How do you, like, how would you describe it? And yeah.
So for me, coming from Greece, and also when I started my company, the Greek financial crisis was just starting, so the need to go outside of the country to find money to make films was a necessity. So I have to say that the first, let's say, target was, yes, to find money. But throughout the years, I realized that co-production is much more than that. It has a lot of elements that can bring to a film. It can be really creative. It can, the other partners can be, you know, the first outsiders, let's say, view for your film, but still being part of this film. They can contribute and they can bring knowledge and creativeness that comes from another cultural and creative and working background. And all this can make the film bigger, and also I think it makes it more relevant to international audiences. So at this point, again, there's still a need to to complete the financing through sources outside Greece. But for me now it's much more, it has to do much more with creativeness also. And throughout the years I've established relationships with other producers and a lot of other creative collaborators, and I'm happy also to return many times to work with them because they are now part of our team. So, yeah.
You become family after a while. Yeah. You, Fabian, do you have a similar approach as Maria, or?
Yeah, I can completely copy that in a way. Maybe adding something. I mean, I mentioned earlier that this, for me, is also the cultural exchange that is very interesting. But talking about European co-production is really also to find people that you can trust and build a relationship and come back, which is really worth having. And I prefer to come very early and with co-producers in projects, or finding co-producers for our projects to develop together. I mean, in the slideshow that I have later, there's a very specific example about that, because I think, yeah, it's about the story, the reflection about the story, and themes, cast, whatever, is it approachable? I don't know if that's growing an audience, but at least I think it makes it in a way better, because you're forced to reflect, and this can be very valuable, and it's also fun. I mean, that is maybe a very important part. Like, if you find the right partners, it's just a great advantage. And in the panel earlier, Maike was mentioning that as well, like this back and forth and this playing with ideas is just, or can be a great advantage. And especially in animation, there's so much work that you can actually split, but you don't have to split it. I mean, it can also make sense to keep the art completely with one person, and just adding other parts. So but is that me? There's a nice flexibility in the form of animation that can work with the right partners, and you just split what works best for the film. So there's not that you have to rip it apart or so. Yeah.
Actually, I was thinking about that. Yeah. But yeah, I was thinking about that because, yeah, I was thinking that animation is, in a sense, much more naturally easier to do co-production, while in live action, it's much more complex because you have to, to put a lot of elements during the shooting together. And that's why it is so important, as you say, to find people that fit you, and also people that come on board very early, so that you can develop a common language until the shooting. And there's also, let's say, the weak point of all this is that sometimes, if this doesn't work, then already from the beginning, this can become like what we say, Europuting. So, that doesn't work at all. So there are also a lot of challenges there to tackle.
Maybe one thing to also add, if you develop early together, it's also a way of testing. So you can get divorced. I mean, there is no problem. Say like, hey, it was interesting to go this way. We tried something, and now we can each. I mean, that there's not necessarily a harm. Of course, it's sad. That's, I think, always the case, because everyone is going with energy. But it's a great opportunity to just say like, okay, we are fully on. And I think if you develop together naturally from the beginning on, it can also help to finance, to come to this point of financing in the other country and region, because then there is a logical element that you can easily prove for your film funds, and they say, okay, yeah, you want to work with them because it makes totally sense. Yeah.
You mentioned the presentation that you have. Also, I think you maybe because no, time is not
Is it
running
one?
out. So
I mean, we can skip it. I can also.
no,
just
please. You have brought the presentation here. We can talk about it. So,
yeah,
if we can have the presentation, please. Yes.
Okay. So this is not a European, but a German-Arab co-production with Lebanon. And I'm mentioning that because, or I want to talk about that a bit, because it's a great example of how it worked, and also how complex it is and how much time it took. It's really interesting. So this film is an animation short film of roughly 10 minutes that premiered last year in Krakow. I don't know if I can play that with this button. I wanted to show something. Oh, I think I did something wrong. Oh, sorry.
Okay. I will see.
Can someone else?
Ah.
Just to give a little impression. Okay, so sorry, I interrupted my own trailer. So, yeah, so you saw that there's an animal, there's or no, I come back to that later. There's this old lady which is getting more and more wooden step by step by getting older, which is a nice image of of getting weaker till in the moment that she's dead. So how my grandmother became a chair is that, like when someone is dying and your grandparents or parents, then you might want to take something like one element, if it's a chair or whatever, an image, you take something with them and you can bring it home. And that was the idea that Nicola had. And in, I don't know, 2017, thank you to myself for writing it down. So there was this pitching session in Stuttgart. I mentioned that earlier. Robert Bosch Foundation had this initiative, which was great. You met German producers and Arab filmmakers are meeting, in that case in Stuttgart, the animators, and they can present their project. So that is like very informal meeting. It's not a pitch where it's about big things, just like, here I have this story. So I fell in love with this story. We had some days, like here in the festival, to just enjoy the time together, see if there's a common idea, maybe, and if you like each other. And then you can apply together for this fund. Plus, they gave out this award, this golden thing, where this project especially got nominated directly for this Robert Bosch Prize. Then this prize is not only cash money for production, it is way more. It was like almost 1 year of development. So it's script development, you have a script consultant, and you are meeting in different places in Germany, where the Arab filmmakers were invited, and we were invited to go to the Arab world. In that case, it was Jordan and Egypt, I think. So, and that is amazing, because there is no other way but learning about the culture, about the food, about how lovely it actually just is. And you are developing this project on all levels. There is the one workshop about financing, one workshop about script, and so on. And then there's a pitch. Oh no, that comes later. It's a bit hard to read. But there's a pitch at Berlinale in the end. Before is a pitch workshop, so you also train your pitch with experts. So it's like the whole thing. And in Berlinale, there is with Berlinale Talents, you will present the pitch in front of experts, and they will decide. And if you got it, we received 60,000 euros production fund for this project. So that was a great starting point. And through this year of co-development, we already became friends. There was a great trust, but we also had a lot of fights. and we had to manage. And but this whole thing, so some projects might break apart, and we grow. It was great. 2018. So I told you before, 2020 we actually finished the film. So I share with you the financing plan. It's I don't know if it's confidential. It's mine, so I can share it. I think it's not the final one because I couldn't find it, but you can roughly see the number is it's like slightly different maybe. So I have to turn my hat. So there is different sources. The Arab Cultural Fund is from Lebanon, so that is the Lebanese cost. Robert Bosch Fund is a German cost because that came from Germany. Then Doha Film Institute is Qatar. It's different. If you got support from Doha Film Institute, it becomes a Qatarian film. You have to put Qatar as even without a producer, you have to put the country. Yeah, exactly. The Francophone Fund in Lebanon, we didn't get it. So it's nice that it's there. We were hoping for it. And then the regional funds with the 150% minimum spending that I was mentioning. So with these amounts, you can actually see that Germany is a way bigger partner. And our director, writer, and co-producer living in Lebanon, we were saying, okay, how can we actually make this production happen? Because it's not balanced that everyone can animate in that sense. So we say, okay, we do all the animation in Germany. And since there is not much of education, we wanted to bring the director to Germany that we can actually train him for his next projects. And so we had great ideas in mind. The funding that we received was enough to get into production. Master plan was very, okay, sometimes a bit funny, no? So the funding was confirmed mid-2018 already. So it went very fast, and Francophone just, didn't work out, no problem. We wanted to have a residency for Nicolas in Hamburg so that it can also boost, didn't work out. Application for visa 2018, we wanted to bring him for 1 year to Germany because we know that it will take a long time. It's a work visa. And here...
Hello from Munster.
Hello from Beirut.
No, I will skip that.
Hello from Hamburg.
Yeah, it's too much blah blah. So we wanted to start in 2018. In the end, we started in 2019. Here I said all these rejections. Yes, so you can see that it's not going out all like very smoothly. And the biggest problem was that we didn't get the visa, and we did everything, and the embassy was not replying anymore, and they were not reachable, and we were trying from all angles, and in the end we had to work remotely. There was one crisis after another in Lebanon, still is. I think there's some are mentioned. We almost lost the money that we had in Lebanon. They didn't give out the dollars anymore, like the US dollars, which was the standard currency that everyone was using because the Lebanese currency was weak. But the banks kept it. So the banks became in power in that sense, or they still are. And it became really a problem. So last week, I think 1 week before it stopped, we could cut the money out in order to be able to spend it on the production. But in the end, the director was losing a lot of his payment through this inflation. So, okay. But we managed remotely with a great team of of people to finish the film, to premiere the film in Krakow was great, even if it was digital, obviously. It got selected a lot, and this year, actually, the director could travel to festivals and won an award in Carthage Festival, which was great because it's a big Arab festival, and he could be there in person. And so many nice things happened for him. He got accepted for a new residency. He has 2 new projects on the run. We started a comic. So this project really opened a lot for him, which I'm really happy about. And now I think you can ask me and us everything. We're really happy to share. Thank you.
Yes. Let's see if this, yes, it's on. Yeah, of course, as I mentioned several times before, please ask us any questions you want and we will try to give answers. I think this is such a perfect example of a co-production gone wrong but then gone right in the end. And it's crazy to see how to co-produce even though you cannot be in the same country with each other, especially like with animation, it works quite well, right? In the end, did the animation still take place only in Germany, or yeah?
Yeah, he was working on the backgrounds. He was coloring that, and he had access to an online tool where he had daily updates and could review everything. And we managed that he could do the sound design and music in Beirut, so he could be in the studio. The mix again was in Germany, so there was some things that we had to push back and forth, but it was all doable. It's just you have to find some ideas.
Wow. And Maria, also you have also brought an example of quite a successful short film that you co-produced. It's maybe we can see the trailer from Limbo here first before you talk about your experience of that quite large co-production.
Okay, so it's funny because a lot of the issues and challenges that you mentioned were also challenges for this film, funnily enough. So Limbo is a film by Konstantina Kodjamani. I would dare to say that Konstantina is now maybe the most successful short filmmaker in Greece. She has quite a long filmography of short and medium length films. She has been with her films in all major festivals, Berlin, Cannes, Locarno, Venice, and a lot more. And Limbo was a film that she started developing with another Greek producer in 2012, when she got the financing from the Greek State TV. And in 2013, she went to Nisimasa with that other producer, and they met the French producer of the film, the French co-producer of the film, and they decided to work together. This short film was my first co-production of a short film, and the first co-production for Konstantina too. And I have to say that maybe at the moment was the short film with the highest budget for a Greek film, which was around, in the end, around 160,000 euros, which is really unimaginable, was then for Greece. they started financing the film in France and also in Greece, but then the two producers, they disagreed on several issues, and the Greek producer decided to step down. And then Konstantina approached me, and because I really liked her previous work, I was happy to jump on board. But then a few, let's say, incidents started to happen. First of all, in 2013, the state TV was shut down by the government, and this financing was lost. And but the French financing was advancing, and we also got the financing from the Greek Film Center, and also from the pay TV, from the Greek pay TV. Lately, the public TV was reopened under a new form, but they only gave us half of the initial amount. So in the end, we managed to gather with every possible source in Greece, which is quite difficult. So public TV, pay TV, Greek Film Center, we got 50,000 all in all, including deferrals from Greece. But the good thing is that the French co-producer was able to bring more than 100,000 from France. And another good thing is that it was quite flexible financing. So basically, most of the post-production was made in France, not the editing, but all the shooting and the editing took place in Greece. Then with this in place, we started prepping, and in the summer of 2015, 1 month before the shooting, the government went into capital controls, so the banks were shut down. I remember that 2 days before this announcement, and where there were rumors that they would seize the account, something that had already happened in Cyprus, and companies had lost money. So I had the first installment from the state TV, and I went to the bank and took everything out, and then hid it in different places in my house, under the mattress, in my shoes. I even remember that at some point I forgot where I had put, I think, 2,000 euros. And I found them much, much later inside a box of shoes. I saw it in my dream at some point, and I woke up and I found it. And it was really crazy time, because we could only withdraw 60 euros per day. That was it. And if you didn't withdraw the 60 euros, then you lost. You would lose it. You would have to go the other day and take this other 60. So the cash flow of the prep was impossible. Good thing is that with the help and support of all the crew and my team, and with a lot of challenges when it comes to cash flow for a quite demanding film, we made it possible, and we did a very, very difficult shooting, which included a lot of kids. Basically, the story is about 12 kids and a new boy that comes into town. And in the mud, in the swamps, but it happened, and everybody was happy, and the material was really good. Then we started the post-production, which was, again, I would say, a bit challenging. It had a lot of back and forth, and unfortunately, the French coordinator, not the producer, was quite complicating the things. She was not very experienced, and we faced a lot of, we lost a lot of time and energy. But it happened again. And then the French producer showed the film to the Cannes programmers, and very fast the film got selected there. And from there on, it became a huge success. It went to over 100 festivals. It got numerous awards. It received the best short film of the year by the Hellenic Film Academy. It got nominated for the European Film Awards. It got the Oscar qualification. It was released, sold in many TV channels and platforms. And most of all, it made Constantina, it established Constantina and established a style that is very, very original and was very much contested at that point before this film in Greece. And she has been able since to complete another very successful medium length, which premiered in Venice 2 years ago. And now she's in prep of a new film that's actually produced, majority produced by a French producer. And we're also in financing of her first feature film, which will be shot in Japan. So Limbo was the starting point for all this, and for me it's very important. It's a film that I really love, and it was really, really hard to do it. I forgot that we also, most of the crew after the shooting, we got stomach infection, so which stays still actually with both of us. But it's a film that I really cherish, and it gave me a lot of knowledge to continue co-producing and producing.
It's a very bombastic co-production as a first co-production. Actually, I don't know how many funding institutions you collaborated with, because it was not 2, it was I don't know, 5. It was a lot.
No, it was a lot. It was, and this was also another thing that was complex, because we had to satisfy not so much the spending obligations, because as I said, they were quite flexible, but sometimes the lengths. For example, the French TV at the end found the film too long, and we had to edit a shorter version for them. So yes, it was also quite demanding for this reason.
Yeah, it's the classic more money, more problems. We don't have so much time left, actually. I wanted to look out on the audience and see if there is any questions. If not, I will continue. I actually wanted to ask how, and this is a question directed to the three of you, how are you scouting films? Is it mostly on festivals? And I mean, you're now new in scouting short films, of course, but is it mostly at festivals, markets, pitching sessions? Where do you find your potential collaborators?
It's pure coincidence, I would say.
In the bar?
Of course, I mean, I like to continue working with people that we have already a relationship to. That is, I think, just wonderful. It happened already a couple of times. I think there's 2 filmmakers we do the 3rd film now with, so that's great. But I'm not so much into pitching, I wanted to say, but actually it's also not true. I'm listening, but it's not like I'm really scouting, because there's enough projects actually out there, so it's not that there is not enough work. But sometimes it's also more like the personal connection. If there is a link somehow, and that's why I love to go to the festivals, because you get to know the person behind the project, or the producer behind this first-time director, and this kind of helps. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I work a lot with previous collaborations. So if a fellow producer or filmmaker that I have worked and was successful comes with a new project, I'm definitely interested to follow up. And I have to say, I do go to festivals, not exactly to scout, again, because also Greece is not so easy to co-produce, as a minor, but I have done luckily that with different methods. But it's important for me, yes, to go to festivals to meet with people. Again, for me, human touch and interaction and contact is the most important in our job. So it's not easy to just find projects without it.
And you, Beatrix, how do you see it? Might not be so much scouting as it is reading applications. But,
Yes, I mean, we are represented, as I'm here today as well. I mean, we really try to be present in main festivals and markets, and there we are available for any kind of discussion, and so that's our main markets, yeah, where we look out for new talents, and yeah.
It's a very fun work, I'm sure. I think if there is no question from the audience, I mean, you guys are available now after the talk, so please reach out to them and talk to them if you have any questions. And thank you so much for being here. It was a lovely talk. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
you.
you.